Welcome once again to Game On. That's show where I will bring you everything, all the conversation that make the Premier League the most watched league in the whole world. Yeah, in the whole world right now. If you're still not following the Premier League, you're in a very long thing. My name is Joseph Faulkner, and I'm in the company of Eddie for this on this episode. Eddie, how are you?
I'm doing very well, and actually, this feels very intimate because it's just the two of us. And welcome to the show, everyone. This is we're usually a lot more than this, but today, we've just brought this for you. This is gonna be special. So I'm so excited about today's show.
Yeah, like Eddie said, we're normally more than this, but the other guys are stuck some, in other business and all of that. So, but it's the quality isn't going to drop. Eddie's here. He's you know what you get when Eddie starts talking is football. But quickly, some of the predictions we made last weekend. I know one of them that I got absolutely wrong, but where you were talking about Brentford. Brentford against Tottenham Hotspur, and I was so sure Tottenham will come out of that game tops, but it didn't happen that way. Brentford were absolutely beautiful,
Yeah.
absolutely. I feel if they had a clinical striker in that game, they could have blown Spurs away very early in the game.
Plus, we're lucky. Brentford hit the post. They absolutely. I think that when teams play Brentford, they don't know what they're gonna get, and they almost takes them by surprise because they feel like Brentford. Start of the season. They won a couple of games, and then they went through that patch where they weren't winning any games. But you can
Mm.
notice that as soon as Christian Eriksen came into the team and he started getting used to the players. He's such a great player. He reminds me so much of Modric. So underrated, but they do so much quality of their passes. Just the setting the ball at the right angle, the right pace. um and so now Brentford, they know that they just need to stay organized at the back, and they've got someone in the middle of the park that takes the football. So when teams go and play them, they just think, oh, it's just Brentford. But at your own peril, they have two strikers that are very physical. And if you're a defender and you think that you're just gonna roll Tony, and get away with it, then you're in for a shock. So I already knew. I've been watching them closely. I don't want to play Brentford right now. I think we played them at a
Yeah,
good time.
we got our victory, and it was a
E-
good time. You
Exactly.
know,
So, I always felt that they would have a say, in the top four race. And I almost got the prediction right because I
almost,
I went for
almost.
a 1-1 draw. But I mean Brentford are a breath of fresh air. Whether they will continue like this to the next season, it remains to be seen. But
That's another conversation entirely. That's another
absolutely,
conversation. But,
absolutely.
we've seen a lot of clubs come into the Premier League and do very well in their first season, and second season they look like a shadow, of themselves. And but the way Brentford is set up and the way they play, the kind of the brand of football they play, um, I don't know why I keep thinking they're not going to be one of such teams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I mean, you look at the Premier League, right, and you say, right, are you conceding a lot of goals? And that's usually the thing with promoted teams. They just cannot stop conceding goals. They concede a lot of goals and they struggle to score. I mean, look at Brighton. Brighton, struggle to score. They will go games, they've not scored more than one goal. But Brentford have got a balance. They don't concede a lot. They don't also score a lot, but that helps. So it balances out. It's not like as if you're gonna play Brentford and you're gonna beat them 5-6, 4-0. You're probably gonna, eke out a 2-1 victory or something. They keep it close and competitive. So if you got that base, it means that players can come in and adjust
Yeah.
because they don't have to like feel like when they come onto the team, they're solely the reason why. If you think about Brentford, okay, Christian Eriksen is great, but most of the other players they do a job. If they switch players around, you actually don't even notice that as well. So I feel that they've got a good manager. someone that, tactically, takes it to the big teams. Remember how they played Liverpool at the start of the season? And Liverpool were blowing everyone. Well, they're still blowing everyone, out of the park, but they matched them. So I feel like they've got something. Now, the only thing that can happen is, the usual things with promoted teams. Now they're probably earning, what they were earning when they got promoted. You do one season in the Premier League, everyone's looking for the big bucks. And then they start paying a few players a little bit more. Some players want more, and then you start to see that. But I mean, if they keep their work structure, very well, they can do what Burnley did well up until this season, because Burnley had that structure, and they were bringing players in, the type of players that they
Yeah.
wanted, that fitted into their system.
So very interesting, very interesting to note. But then, first season back in the first season in the Premier League, Ivan Toney has been very, very key to a lot of the good things that happened with this Brentford side. Talk about Christian Eriksen as well. He's also been very, very good for them. He's actually been a very huge, a very big performer for them, and all of that. And the question is, well, this is not a question. Eriksen definitely is going to be leaving. Eriksen is definitely out of this club. We're hearing rumors about the possibility of him moving to Tottenham Hotspur, moving back to Spurs. We're hearing possibilities of him going to Newcastle United. There's a whole lot of money to be spent in Newcastle right now, so everybody's been linked, with Newcastle at the moment. So there are several other players at that side. You'll be thinking to yourself that some of the big teams or some of the more established teams in the Premier League will come for them. Ivan Toney is one of them. We're hearing Arsenal is interested. We're hearing United are looking at him. We're hearing Tottenham Hotspur are looking at him. And the Tottenham Hotspur one, I think, might not be very solid, especially when you still have Harry Kane in the side. You're not selling him off yet. You have a few other guys around him, Son, and the rest of them. But for a team like Arsenal that is in need of a natural point man, someone who can get you in double figures every season, Ivan Toney looks like a guy who can come into that Arsenal side or that Manchester United side with a kind of support cast he will have at those club sides. He will get you those kind of goals, and so the big teams will be hovering around him, and that might be a lot of distraction. So what happens? What happens to this side if they lose a few players who were key in the first season? How do you see them repeating this feat?
So I think without a shadow of doubt that, when you have players like Ivan Toney and what they bring to the team, that taking them out of the team, would make a huge difference. Christian Eriksen has just been fantastic. And, when you play in the Premiership, you need someone that has confidence on the ball, can go past players. And, can they replace Christian Eriksen? Probably not.
Mm.
Not the same kind of quality, because I think there were special circumstances with Christian Eriksen, coming into Brentford. Brentford was his way back into the Premier League. So it totally makes sense that, clubs like Newcastle, Tottenham, although I see more likely Newcastle than Tottenham, because, I just look at, Conte, as a manager, and I'm not sure whether he's that kind of player.
And the kind of players he loves to buy. Yeah.
Yes, the kind of player that he loves to buy. So I don't know if Christian Eriksen is his kind of player. But go to a team like Newcastle. I see him going into a team like that, and he would just do so well because
Because you look at Newcastle and you notice that they still lack that creative, that natural pass of the ball in the middle. Jojo Shelby can do it. Willock does it every now and then. Joelinton has dropped deeper, and he looks to be enjoying the free roll behind the striker. But then when you have a Christian Eriksen in the mix, he can protect the ball better than anybody else in that Newcastle side. He can spray passes. Can pick. He can pick up anybody up front. And that's the kind of player you want to, as you're building as a Newcastle, because I don't think they're going to go gung-ho first. The first year when everything looks settled, they're still going to try and see, okay, let's qualify for some kind of Euro European football. And how do we do it? Let's buy guys who know what it means to win and get to that point. And that's why I think, and Ericsson, I'm agreeing with you, Ericsson will fit well in that Newcastle side.
Yeah, he'll fit well. And I mean, Newcastle are not without talent, and I know we're kind of moving away from Brentford a little bit, but Newcastle are not without talent. Kieran Tripper, plays for Newcastle.
Yes,
He's been pretty good. Bruno Gomares, he looks like a decent player.
absolutely
You know,
amazing buy for them.
and
Absolutely amazing buy.
he just slotted into the team, and he just has that bit of confidence, like when a player comes into the team and immediately everybody else is like, okay, it feels like I'm in the club, I feel like
Yeah,
I belong here. And he's brought that to players around him, giving them confidence. So Newcastle, we need to watch them very carefully because they've got the infrastructure, they've got the
they do.
stadium,
They do.
they've got the fan base, they've
And I
just
think they have the man. I think they have the manager as well. I
they
think they have.
do, they do,
Eddie Howe
they
is a brilliant. He's a brilliant manager. He's someone. He understands football tactics. He understands, the little details making it work. Newcastle were conceding goals. They were chipping in goals for fun before he joined the club side. But all of a sudden, he got into the side, found a way to steady the guys, the same players. All he did was positioning how to keep a proper line, and be disciplined about keeping the line. And they became very tidy. Jojo Shelby looked a different player. Willock looked a different player. Jolinton is enjoying himself again. Yeah, so I agree with you. Everything they need is there. They're going to keep adding players to the team, and then they will get better. And like you said, we need to, we need to pay attention to them, as in close attention to them.
we do. This is why you need an Eddie in your team. Always. We'll talk about our Eddie in our own team in Arsenal. But I mean, it,
And that's how game on we have our own Eddie.
exactly. That's why we have our own Eddie. So there's something there. There's a trend going on there.
There's
Eddies are
something about the
involved.
Eddies.
Exactly. So I mean, a good, a good manager when a manager goes in and immediately knows what the problem is. And
Yeah,
you see, that a lot in the Premiership where managers go into a team, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I can't see a difference, right? They're still shipping the same amount of goals. They're not, scoring, and they're playing like as if every opponent is the same. But if you notice that Newcastle, when they play teams, they almost adjust.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes he will play Willock, in the middle. Sometimes he won't.
They
Sometimes he'll
push him to
play
the wings.
Callum exactly. He'll play into the wing. Sometimes he'll play Callum Wilson up front. Sometimes he'll play Chris Wood. Just understanding, the players, what is needed for a game. You would think that someone like Alan Maximan should always start every game, but sometimes he starts him from the bench. Just understanding, what the team needs at a particular point in time, because they're not really a big squad. If you look at it, Newcastle, they're not really a big squad, but he's found a way of mixing the right ingredients, and that for me, just tells you that if he can do this with the limited resources, imagine what he would do with having a Christian Eriksen, in that team, and maybe just getting another, player, maybe someone, because I know Trippier is getting older, or maybe just getting someone to sort of back and Trippier up. Bruno, I think, will always get better, next
But Bruno
season.
will get better. Bruno will get
So,
better.
they've got the makings to actually terrorize people next week.
So
Next,
let's go back to Brentford. We're talking about Brentford before we
yeah,
move to Newcastle United. What happens to them when they lose players like Ericsson, Ivan? Because I don't know why I keep thinking that those two at least will leave this summer.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, Ivan Tony, imagine him playing for a team that creates a lot more, and he has support. And Buemo does a lot for him, right? In terms of taking away tension, attraction from him, because Buemo is almost like the pace in that partnership. He'll be running into channels, and Ivan Tony does that a little bit, but they help create space for each other. But now imagine if you now have a team where you say to him, right, I need you to play a lot closer to the striker, play up front, but then you have other wingers that are taking the attention of the defenders so that you can split the defenders. And he's when I look at Ivan Toney, his accuracy in front of goal is actually quite up there, as well. So I think that if a decent team comes, he might leave. I think it would be too much of an attraction not to be able to say yes to that team. And but if they two players leave, they will suffer a dip. There's no question about that. But I think that their manager, has something about him that just gives me that, little bit of confidence that maybe if he has some backing, because I mean it could have been a gamble, to go for Ericsson. I mean, Ericsson was mentioned
It was a
with
huge,
other.
it was a huge gamble.
It was a huge gamble,
It was a
right?
huge gamble.
Because they mentioned Ericsson with other clubs as well. But he thought to himself, well, I need this quality. And he was able to identify that. The trouble that they're
Especially,
probably going to have.
especially when you think about what happened to Ericsson
Exactly.
at the,
At the
and
Euros.
it looked like at the Euros, and you're not sure which version of Ericsson you're getting back. He had not played competitive football for a while. You're not sure if he's going to be able to last the entire season. You're not sure how his health was going to hold up and all of that. And he's been amazing for them. So it was a good gamble. But I still feel they will suffer a bit. But from what the manager has shown us all season, I think he's a smart man, and I think
Yeah.
he's intelligent enough to look for options, to plug in this. You can't replace an Ericsson. What it brings is immense, but what you can do is you can find someone who's got absolutely amazing quality as well, and then build the team around him in such a way that the likes of Mboma, because Mboma might stay, he might be that one that will stay
Yeah.
as Tony is going, and then whoever else is brought to be added to the attack. You will find him. I think he's brilliant enough, to do that. But let's talk about two struggling teams now. How fortunes have changed so quickly. Eddie, Everton, finally they've been sucked into that bottom four. Burnley, for the world of me, I
Yeah.
didn't see. I
I
didn't
got
see
that
Burnley.
wrong. I got that wrong too. because,
but
because
but Burnley, they've done so well, so well for themselves.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, with Burnley because because you're thinking like, okay, surely they can't win this game, and then they go into the game and they win it, and you're thinking, okay, surely they can't win this one, and then they go into the game and they win it. So, yeah, Everton are in big trouble. They're bang in it.
Very big trouble.
They have to, but playing Chelsea is the kind of game that you know when you win, it gives you massive confidence.
Yeah.
So they have to pull out something like that. I thought that when they beat United, that was going to give them the confidence to go on a run, and then they got sucked back into it. Um, and I know we'll probably touch on this, but I'm wondering whether who plays first, whether that in itself has a bearing on what happens to teams. I mean,
Happens to the other team.
yeah, because you would think that okay, it
But
shouldn't
but, but
matter.
I don't think you should leave that. But does that really have an impact
I
on
think
your
so.
rivals?
I think
It's either title rivals, relegation battlers,
I
top
think
four
I, I
rivals.
think I think it does because I think as players, right, you're human beings, right? If your rival is playing at 12 o'clock, right, you're probably gonna see that game. So it's not like they are playing at 3 and you're playing at 5:30. So you're probably in your preparation mode. But at 12:30, as an example, you're gonna see that game. And then you're like, right, okay, they've got the game now. So now you're thinking, we don't just need to match what they've done but we also need to beat what they've done. But when you're playing, first, you don't care about that. You're like, we just need to win the game. You don't have any other
Exactly.
thing
Isn't that
that
a
comes
bit
into
more
your
pressure?
mind.
Isn't that a bit more pressure? Because now you don't know what's going to happen in your rivals' game. You don't know if all you're thinking in your head is we can't afford to drop points because you drop points, they can win. You drop points,
Yes,
they can
true.
they can they can take
But think,
advantage of
but
that.
think about it like this, right? When you don't know and you're playing with that freedom that all I want to do is win, I can't
Yeah.
drop points. You're not thinking about the worst case scenario because they haven't gotten the points yet. Now,
Hmm.
when you're playing after, they've gotten the 3 points. So now for you, you're like, I cannot lose, right? Because I need to get something out of this game. I need to get a point. I need to get whatever. And maybe you might start to think maybe I play slightly differently, right? You concede a goal, and then you're thinking, okay, do we adjust? Or you score a goal and you're thinking, let's just keep it because we've got to make sure that we win this game. I think it does play a part. I think,
Pattern.
mentally, I think it does, make a difference who plays first, who plays next, and how the players adjust to it. You would think that it shouldn't matter, but time and time again, you
A
see
lot,
the
a lot of
pressure.
we see a lot of things actually affecting the psyche of players.
Yes. Yeah.
Something as little as a history, in a stadium. You know the history that, for instance, Arsenal have not beaten Liverpool at Anfield for
Anfield.
so and so and so. So it's added pressure on the players. Like, okay, will it be the day? Or sometimes you can look at it like, oh, these guys always trash us here. We have to be careful. And then you become too careful. You're not playing
Exactly.
your brand of football, your style of football. But for Burnley and Everton, do you see a way out of this for Everton? And I say this, it's going to be a story if Everton eventually goes down. It's going to be a huge story. They go up against Chelsea next. I don't see a way out. I don't see how they're going to beat Chelsea. But we saw them beat Manchester United. And as far as I'm concerned, at this stage of the season, this period, I think Chelsea and United are just about the same quality. And whatever Everton did to get past Manchester United, I feel they can repeat against Chelsea. But then you look at them. Let's see, is there a way out? That's the question for you, Eddie.
No
They
way.
go
I
up
mean,
against they go up against Chelsea, Leicester,
yeah.
Watford, and Brentford, and then Crystal Palace. Where is the way out for them?
So the Premier League is just one of those leagues that you can't rule people out. Okay, well, you can rule out Watford and Norwich because they,
I was going to remind you that there were those two teams there.
because those ones are gone. But I mean, when a team has a chance, you just never know. Backs against the wall.
Mm.
What it would mean for those players, right? And you say, Chelsea are going through an indifferent form right now because they're probably thinking, well, no matter what happens, we're going to get, third place, right? They've been knocked out of, everything that matters, so you're sort of thinking, they've got internal stuff going on. Rudiger is not going to stay anymore. And they know that they can't sign players, at the end of the season. So it's a little bit of what's going on, and I think right now what Tuchel is trying to do is some of the other players who maybe didn't used to get a run in, he's playing them. Loftus Cheek, is getting more time in a Chelsea shed. You saw Sa come into the game. Okay, he played badly against Arsenal, but these are players that literally weren't getting into the team, so perhaps it's a good time to play Chelsea, and they could just get
It's looking
lucky.
like it.
They could get lucky.
Like
But
it.
I am really struggling to see how Everton can get out of it. And Burnley's run of fixtures, actually
Oh,
is
it
not
looks
so
easier.
bad. It looks
Looks they
easier.
play Watford, they play away to Watford, they play Aston Villa twice. Maybe Tottenham Hotspur, that's one game they might. Tottenham Hotspur and then the game against Newcastle. Maybe those are the two games I think they will struggle in because Tottenham Hotspur on their part, they are chasing Arsenal down for that top four place. So they're going to every game till the end of the season will be like a final for them. You look at Newcastle and the way they are playing. A lot of the players at Newcastle are trying to buy their spots for next season. They know there's a lot of money to be spent by the owners. The owners have the money to spend, and they want to still be as relevant as possible so that when the clear out starts, they can escape the clear out. So a lot of the players are throwing everything they have, throwing everything on the pitch. Newcastle is totally out of it for them, for Burnley, Tottenham Hotspur. But I think they will beat Aston Villa both legs. I think they will beat Watford. On the other hand, Everton, I don't see them beating Chelsea. You look at the other guys that are playing, I don't
Playing
see them
Leicester.
beating Leicester City. I don't see them beating Brentford or
Yeah.
Crystal Palace. So it's a
Yeah.
tough place. They are in a very, very tough spot.
I bet.
And
So
that,
so you see that right now. It might not even get to the Brentford game. right? Because
Exactly.
if Burnley keeps winning, they win those three games, against Aston Villa and against Watford. That's it. That would be enough points to separate them
Both of them.
and Everton. So it's the only thing is Everton needs to keep matching their results, and
Yeah.
well, that looks like a
But
very tough
that
task.
would be a great escape for Burnley. That would be the biggest escape because at some point I thought it was going to be Leeds Burnley down there. Everton was never in the equation at some point in the season. Everton you can't even talk about relegation and talk about Everton. They're not
No,
one of those teams. But how bad things have gotten is absolutely amazing with this Everton side. But it's a conversation we're going to continue having till the end of the season.
yeah.
Let's talk about one massive result. I said something clearly that I wasn't going to celebrate Arsenal's victory over Chelsea until Arsenal was able to beat United.
Mm.
And sometimes you need some luck, you need the rub of the green. And that was what happened to Arsenal against Manchester United. Absolutely beautiful performance from our team.
Game. I was supposed to be at the stadium, watching that Arsenal Man United game, and I was not looking forward to the game at all because I was thinking to myself, we've just played Chelsea. We've probably given as much as we can give, on a midweek game. And then we play Man United 12:30. And if you remember, I was sort of predicting that my heart says, that we will win, but my head is telling me that might end up to be a draw. Because I knew that Cristiano Ronaldo was coming back. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo playing for Manchester United is such a huge difference. It's no coincidence that when he does well, he plays well, they do well. There is just no, you can see that correlation, right? He's the only person that has the threat of doing something. And right now, he's among the top three highest goal scorers in the Premier League. That's ridiculous, right? This
Ridiculous for,
guy,
for a 37-year-old man.
yeah, this guy has only just gone to the Spanish league, scored all those gazillion goals, like literally, then go to another league, Italian league, do exactly the same thing, and then come back to the Premier League and he's still schooling the Premier League, players. Just comes there and bullies everybody to the podium, with regards goal scoring. So I think he's the difference. You might as well just
I
call,
agree.
United Ronaldo United because literally
Ronaldo United.
because because he's literally the difference there. Now that game, I think the fact that we scored that goal in very very early helped. Because we were under an onslaught after we had the two goals. I mean, United threw everything at us.
Everything.
Through I saw United play in a way that I haven't seen them play like that in a very, very long time. And we needed the post, we needed good save, we needed the VAR, we needed everybody to get away from that, game with a win. No, that for me, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that penalty shot. And the
You're
reason
sure that's not the Arsenal fan in you talking?
so okay. So okay, let's say this, right? I know that he knew what he was doing, right? And may not
Are
have
you
been
sure
his
about that?
yeah, so it wasn't his intention to hit the ball, but it was his intention to obstruct.
To put his
Um,
body on the line.
yes, to put his body on the line. Now, if you go by that same token of, a player, imagine that you're in the box and a player does a last ditch defending where he throws his body, right?
Mm,
At an oncoming shot, right? From a very, very close range, and the ball hits the player in the hand. It's very unlikely that they will call that a penalty unless, he had some sort of action to actually hit the ball, right? So that's why, for me, I look at it and say, yes, he knew what he was doing. He was trying to obstruct, the player from passing, and then the ball
mm.
hits his hand. But I just compare that as someone, blocking a goal bound effort, but they didn't do any action with their hands. It just happened that the ball hits them, with their hands by their side. And then, it's really, really, unfair that you will call that, and it would be unlucky for you to call that as a penalty. Now,
I totally agree with you on that. So somebody tried to explain, a referee tried explaining it, and it made a lot of sense. He was falling down. He has to support himself with his hand. He was trying to obstruct the player from advancing, but he wasn't trying to use his hands. He was trying to put his body on the line. On the line. At that point, he didn't have the full use of his feet. So to move his body while on the floor, he needed to move his hands.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the ball hit his hands, and so you can't call that a penalty. And I totally agree with the ref, because when I kept saying it, I said he needed his hands to support himself, and immediately the referee explained the same thing. I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But the Tavares penalty, rule books, that's a penalty. According to the rule books,
yes,
that's a penalty.
yes, yes,
His hand was not in a natural position.
yeah,
But then, I've always had a problem with that law, that rule.
mm,
When you jump, you don't jump with your arms by your side.
yes,
So for some reason, you spread your arms wide for balance. But what you're saying now is, because you're in the box or because you're playing football, when you jump, you must jump like you're a robot.
yeah.
You don't need the balance. You just jump straight. And it doesn't happen that way.
No. And you can almost compare that when they give a yellow card for a player who jumps and elbows someone, right? And then, sometimes you see them subjectively saying, well, did he look at the player before he did that? Or, did he just hit the player? And that for me also frustrates me, because I'm thinking, like, the guy has taken this guy out, right?
Took him
If
out
you're
totally.
going by your interpretation that, he's done that for a penalty, well, you might as well say he's caused the foul, whether he was looking at the player or not.
Or
But you
not.
see that oftentimes they don't give anything. Sometimes they don't even give a foul, right? When that happens, unless the player looked at the player before he did that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, but the action is still, causing, obstruction to the other player and actually
Yeah,
slowing that player down. So why are you then looking at the intention, as well? And you people say, and everybody always says, oh, well, we can't know the intent of the player. Well, because someone looks at someone, you're already inferring intention, and you're going beyond the action that has happened. So yeah, I think for me, that penalty frustrated me, but I understood why they gave it. And I think they've been giving it more consistently actually these days.
all right. Let's quickly head to our preview for the weekend, and we're not going to look at a lot of games yet, but we're going to look at two teams playing top four teams, but they were in Europe in midweek. They were in Europe in midweek, and okay. So I don't want to sound a cliche right now. Won't these travels take its toll on these teams? But West Ham didn't travel. So that is there. But their activities or their schedule, how much of an impact, what do you call it? How much fight will they give to Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal? Leicester take on Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal go up against West Ham United. These games will have an impact on top four finishers. How do you think Leicester and West Ham will show up to that game?
Um, they won't show up. So I think the question is, would they actually show up? And now is now a question where people are sitting there and thinking, how many people did West Ham rest, for the game? How many people did Leicester rest? So now who rests the most players? People are going to be saying, well, you give that person more advantage or the other. But if West Ham turn around and they only rested two players, maybe they took Zuma out because they're afraid that he might get injured, and then they take out, Antonio, because they're afraid that he might get injured. Or maybe they take out three players, because the three players I know that are very important to them: Zuma, Declan Rice, and Antonio. So they take out those three. But Leicester, they're like, oof, we'll take out Vardy, we'll take out Ndidi, we'll take out Madison. we'll take out
You're taking out every player that can actually be that can be key
that can be
to
key,
getting a
right?
result.
Getting a
But
result.
let's look at it this way again. The first legs were not very favorable to both teams.
Mhm.
That's where I look at the results they got. Their only way, if they don't win these competitions, their only way back to Europe, especially for West Ham, is to make sure they finish as high up as possible in the league.
Yeah.
And that means getting points off Arsenal in this weekend. Leicester City still have a shouting chance of finishing in a European spot mathematically if they win the rest of their games
Yeah.
this season. So, won't you also be looking as a manager? Won't you also be looking at the possibilities of getting results even in the Premier League and finishing as high up as possible in the league?
Not at all. You're in the semi-final of a European Championship. You're literally staring at the final just after a game. And we're talking about two teams that, this is going to be monumental, for those two teams. West Ham being in the final of an European competition. They have not been near a final in a very, very long time.
Long time.
So this is their season. Forget, what's happening in the Premier League. Yeah, but this is their season. And don't forget, they win the Europa League, they get into the Champions League. So you're looking at, two games to potentially get you into the Champions League compared to like 5, 6 games that can get you to some European
Some, yeah,
competition.
yeah, yeah.
So, I can't fault them for prioritizing the Europa League. And Leicester will be thinking the same thing as well. I can almost get to a final, right? For
So why not?
players,
Why not?
exactly.
Why
For
not push
players, who's going to remember you when you finish 6, 7, in the
in the
Premier League?
league?
But if you win,
But
you
for the
know,
business, but for the business, you know, for the business, finishing high up as possible makes sure, at least assures you money next season.
yeah,
But then winning the European competition as well assures you a lot more money actually.
exactly. There you go. You see the sponsorship that is only just going to go up. We're talking about
Mm,
obscene amounts of money these days with football. So
yeah,
as you, even the players will be saying to their boss, listen, we have to go for this.
you have to go for
We've
this.
got to go for this. So would they come and lie down against Arsenal or Tottenham?
Talking about sports.
Probably not. But I would see players playing not to get injured. I would see
Mm,
players, playing to make sure that they can actually, play in that game against Frankfurt and in the game against Roma. So for me, that begins to ask the question, right? Because everyone might be thinking, oh, it's the top four, right? It really makes no sense. But what if it was Liverpool and it was Man City, right?
mm,
We're talking about goal difference potentially deciding the Premier League, right? So it depends now. Man City play. Imagine Man City playing Tottenham. I mean, playing West Ham or Leicester, and the opportunity to score 6 goals because they can, right?
mhm.
And then, Liverpool are playing the other team, and you're thinking, well, if they don't score, 6 goals or so, they could very quickly be behind in terms of goal difference. So it
I
is
totally.
it's not quite often that this sort of thing happens, but someone was saying, now why don't you just give those teams 3 points? Tell West Ham and Leicester to go and rest for the weekend because you now have a chance that you could have an all English Europa League final, which everyone would absolutely want to see. So it's funny. It's a weird thing, but I don't think Spurs or Arsenal are gonna be complaining. I think Mikel Arteta will be
No matter
thinking to himself,
no matter, but I still feel that the West Ham Arsenal game will probably still be a contest because it's a London derby.
London
It's a
derby, yeah,
London derby, so the
yeah.
rivalry and all of that. But quickly, who blinks first, Liverpool or City?
I said this. I said this in one of our shows the other time that I actually think that they are all gonna go unbeaten, both of them. Because
Liverpool and City will go
Liverpool
unbeaten.
and City, I just feel like right now, even Liverpool. when they are not even playing well, there are
They're getting
things
the
that
results.
just seems to be happening for them. And I look at their fixtures, right? So they've got a couple of home games that are left. They play Tottenham at home. You don't get a penalty at Anfield. Sorry, that's just that that's just in the rule book. You don't get a penalty at Anfield, and they play Wolves at Anfield. They play Crystal Palace at
Sorry,
Anfield.
I think Wolves, Villa, Southampton, those are no brainers. Two games that can probably be one game that can actually be a banana skin is Newcastle, Liverpool.
Yes. So you
I
would
don't
be
know why.
thinking,
I don't know why I rate Newcastle so highly these days, but the way they play, the quality of the players, they can go physical, they can do sleek football, beautiful football. They can move the ball around very well, but they are not afraid of a battle.
no, they are not. So this is going to be one of those games where Liverpool goes in and they're going to stay resilient. And you've seen
Got to
that
grind
do,
out a result.
yeah, you've seen them do that a lot. And then, second half, they bring in a Jota, who does, or a Diaz, who just does something, and an error is caused, and then they score a goal. So you will notice that when teams are really matching them, they play for mistakes, and that's coaching, for you to force your opponents to make mistakes that you're
Mm,
prepared for, because
mm,
in a game of football teams will make mistakes, but not oftentimes that you're actually
definitely.
being coached to recognize when a mistake is about to happen and you take advantage of it, because it almost feels like the Liverpool players, they're almost looking for mistakes, so they're going out, playing teams and like, okay, this is not going to be that game that we're going to score 2 3 goals, but we're going to force a mistake, or we will look for a mistake and take advantage of it. And that's just supreme level, of football. This is
Mm,
what, like, elite, you're talking about, like, super, super elite teams that now, people used to say that about Mourinho back then, that it wasn't just about the tactics, it was the psychology that he puts into the
yeah,
players,
yeah,
when they
yeah.
go onto the game.
Kind of
And
mindset they go into game to.
in fact, I think, right now, Klopp, has probably gotten, beyond that level, because the Liverpool players, know how to create scenarios within a pitch that actually favors them. And then, of course, they get the rub of the green. And somehow in my head, I always think to myself, does the Premier League, want this thing to keep going? Because obviously, I'm sure that the ratings now for those games are going through the roof. So they probably would not want any of the teams to actually be dropping points, right now. So I don't see, I look at their fixtures and I'm thinking to myself, I can't see a fixture that is going to make any of them blink. Liverpool have got games that, you're thinking, well, they might not win, 3 or 4 nil, but I don't expect them to go and drop points. So and Man City have been in this position too many times, so they know exactly what needs to be done. I look at those two teams, and for me, I don't see them dropping points. All the games are stacked up. If you look at their fixtures, I think both Man City and Liverpool have the ability to win every single game to the end of
Everything
the
in front
season.
of them.
Everything in front of them. Man City have got, the potential to have 95 points, when this is all said and done, and Liverpool 94 points. So I suspect that
Wow.
if anyone is going to do something, it's probably going to be a drop point, a draw somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Man United Liverpool game, right? And I say to myself, well, they played that game without Ronaldo, that midweek game that they played Liverpool. So will Ronaldo make a difference? Because I think personally, Ronaldo will probably be going for the, top goal scorer in the league. And, right now, he's only behind, Salah, if I remember. I think it's only behind Salah by, okay, by a couple of point of goals. So it's about maybe, 4 goals or so between the two of them. But Yeah, I think Ronaldo coming to the Premier League. I think you will have a personal point to prove that that was a bit of a one-off.
Let's bring everything up now. Our predictions now, guys. We're gonna start something now from our next recording. We're gonna start um, reviewing our predictions. So you all get ready for the banters and all. We're gonna really be going at it. Maybe we even drop a leaderboard, and then the remaining 4, 5, 6 games of the season, we'll see what happens, and then we'll see who's the bomb of the season among four of us. But let's start off our predictions quickly.
Yeah.
Manchester City, they're chasing the title. They're away at Leeds United. What do you think?
3-0. 3-0 to Man City.
So the question is how many goals will Leeds ship in?
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing about City scoring 4. City
Okay.
scoring 4 now, but at least we both agree it's a City victory.
Yeah.
Liverpool away at Newcastle United.
Ooh.
Tough.
It's tough. Looking at everything that we've talked about, I feel like Newcastle will score in
Yeah,
that game. I
I
feel
think they will
Newcastle.
score.
I feel Newcastle will score, but I just have this feeling that Liverpool are just going to create something. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Liverpool.
You're reading my mind. I'm going for a 2-1 victory for Liverpool as well in that one. Watford at home to Burnley. I think it's going to end in a draw. I think we're going to see score draw in this one. What do you think?
Do you think Burn and Watford can beat Burnley? I mean,
Not beat,
just
not
just
beat, draw.
just for just think just like okay, well, they know that it's just pride at stake because
Yeah,
it's funny. These teams have a way of
it takes pressure. It takes pressure off the team
exactly it
sometimes.
takes pressure off. You're going down. There's no. So let me go
It's
for
an
an upset.
it's an opportunity to sell yourself.
Let me go for an upset. I'm going to go for a Watford victory.
Watford victory.
1-0.
Interesting. Everton, Chelsea victory. 2-0. 2-0.
2-1 to Chelsea.
2-0. 2-0. I'm going for 2-0 victory. And then Leicester City away at Tottenham Hotspur. Victory for Spurs.
Victory for
3-1.
Spurs. Victory
3-1.
for Spurs. I'm sure, Kane will be thinking, do you know what? I can add some goals here and boost up my. I know Salah is right up there right now. He's 5 ahead of anybody, but
Salah isn't scoring. Salah isn't scoring,
Salah
and that's
scored
a
20.
problem.
Yeah, Salah scored 22 goals and is not scoring. So Kane will be thinking, you know what? Kane and Son, imagine. Son has got 17 goals as well, this season.
Mm.
So I see Spurs beating,
Whether they are scoring or not, them being on the field is a threat to any team.
it is.
Any
It
team.
is. So I'm
All
going
right.
3-0.
Our 3-0. Okay, our final game of the weekend, the final game we're predicting, West Ham at home to Tottenham, to Arsenal. I beg your pardon.
I'm gonna go with 2-0. 2-0 to Arsenal.
3-1
Um,
Arsenal.
yeah, 'cause I just feel like, and this game is set up well for us. If we score the first goal,
We
then
will score. We will score the first goal, and we're
yeah,
going to win 3-1.
yeah, score the first goal. If we score it early, then Western can be like, you know what, let's just pack this thing up. We've got we've got Europa League to worry about. So sorry, West Ham fans. I know you guys, want to win every game, but
No,
Europe
no,
is.
not this one.
Trust
Not
me,
this one.
Europe is better. You want to be in Europe next season.
All right, thank you very much, Eddie. It's been an interesting ride today, even though we had an intimate session like you described it at the start
Yes.
of the show. Hopefully, during our next recording, the other guys will be back on, and um, we're already working on some guests joining us. Maybe next week, maybe we might just see one or two people join us next week on the show. It's been an amazing time, Eddie.
Absolutely, as well. Absolutely enjoyed the show today. I've had so much fun, so much laughter. It's been great. So guys, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, share. We will keep bringing the content. We'll keep getting better. and watch out for those amazing guests that are going to be coming out on the show.
All right, thank you very much. And guys, you heard from Eddie. Like, subscribe, add your comments. Tell us what you love us to do. On this it's a form of video podcast. Just join us and let's have some fun talking the Premier League. And also, we've got several plans for you during the off season. We're not going to go off. We're going to try and bring you some content that you will enjoy. Until then, bye bye.
Till then, bye bye. And we might talk about next week, Premier League, Player of the Year. It's not too early
Yeah,
to
yeah.
start talking about that.
We will